is not as complicated as you think. And we have had probably 2 years of requests for this class, so we're super excited to have Loretta with us. Loretta Bailey is a resident of Fort Worth and is a Tarrant County Master Gardener, Texas Master Naturalist, a certified citizen forester, propagation and compost specialist. She teaches gardening in North Texas at Tarrant County College, and her true passions are native and drought-tolerant landscaping and helping the environment through water conservation and composting. So Loretta, I'm going to turn this over to you. Thank you very much for coming tonight.
So thank you so much for coming, you guys. It makes me really excited that you guys want to learn about composting, because a lot of my even master gardening friends will be like, composting, that's boring. But it's much needed. And I'm glad you guys know that and you want to come and learn more. So I'm going to teach you 2 ways of doing composting. Not just, I got to go out there and be a slave to this compost bin and constantly work at it. There's a quick way to do it and a lazy way to do it. I'm a lazy composter, okay? I've got a huge yard. For me, it's huge, 1/2 an acre. I like to enjoy it. Go out there and look at things, plant pretty flowers. I don't always want to go out there and work in a compost. Can you hear me okay? With this? Not with this? You're okay? Okay. Okay, I like to walk around as I talk, but I'll try to stick around right here. Okay, so as she said, my name is Loretta Bailey, Tarrant County Master Gardener, Master Naturalist. I think that's where a lot of my conservation efforts come to play. Drought-tolerant plants, things like that, composting. We will go ahead and get started. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask me, okay? All right, so why should we compost? Well, landfills, they are overburdened. I'm not gonna just talk about environmental stuff today. I'll teach you the ABCs of composting, but we are just throwing away too much, guys. Amazon, boxes, plastic, everything else. We need to do better, okay? Increase in population. So many people are moving here, as you know. Traffic, took me an hour to get here from Fort Worth. Okay, repurpose your kitchen scraps and your yard trimmings. I call that stuff gold. Why throw it away? Why put it in the landfill? You can recycle that, repurpose it, and make wonderful compost. Great soil amendment, and I'll explain how that works later on. Enrich your soil and conserve water, because compost allows you to retain more moisture in your soil. Happier roots. Decreases the need for chemical fertilizers. When you have compost, there's a lot of nutrition in there, in your banana peels, your watermelon rinds, your leaves. All of that comes together and creates this dense nutrition for your soil. And I'm going to show you some real life examples that I brought from home today. Okay, so let me show you, I guess I could pass this around. But I ask that you please do not smush my compost, because I didn't pull the worms out. Okay, worms are great for your soil, guys. They help aerate your soil. It's a little steamy in here, but you'll see some white chunks, like little eggshells and things like that, because eggshells don't really, they do decompose, but not completely. So when you use eggshells, you might see some little sharp pieces. No big deal, just put it right into your soil. So this is carbon. I will explain all this later, so it's not like, what is she talking about? I've got a paper towel roll in here. Don't throw that away, put that in your compost. Nothing organic goes in my trash, nothing. Shredded paper, you guys probably have bills that you shred. Put that in your compost, don't throw it away, that's your carbon. Leaves, dried leaves, sticks, what is it?
We have a lot of leaves.
Put it in your compost. And then I collected this just today. It's there's 2 small red potatoes because they started sprouting, and they were kind of soft. I forgot about them, so I put them in here. Used coffee grounds, my cauliflower core, carrot shavings, the skin, and what else is in there? Yeah, I think that's it for today. Made a salad. I'm the only vegetable eater in my family. My husband only eats meat, well, he eats potatoes, but, you know, and corn, but that's not a vegetable. And I still accumulate so much compost. I have 2 compost bins going, just from me. And I eat meat too, I'm not a vegetarian. So anyways, isn't this amazing how this and this, that's it, just those 2 things turn into this. This rich, heavy, dense compost. So again, I'm gonna pass these around if you want to take a look, but please don't smush my compost. There's live worms in there. All right. Oh. Ooh. Great.
And what if there's one by one, so.
Yeah, just feel free. Okay, so what does compost do for your soil? It adds beneficial nutrients, it feeds your soil, okay? So you have happier roots. Promotes proper and healthier growth of plants. For clay soil, who all has clay soil here? Most of us, yeah. Usually in our area here in Dallas-Fort Worth, you don't hear a lot of people say sandy soil or anything like that. We primarily have clay, which is dense. Sometimes you might find some rocks in there. Where I live in Haslett, it is dense clay. You might as well call it brick. Every time I dig, I find a rock about this big or little ones. It's amazing anything can survive, but I'm always amending. Amending means you're adding good things to your soil. For clay, clay is very dense and water doesn't really penetrate through it very well. It kind of wants to, you know, coagulate and just kind of act like this. When you add compost, it fluffs it up, it loosens it up, and it allows water to drain through better so that you have more oxygen, more water penetration, happier roots, right? For sandy soil is a little bit different. You're gonna have granules like salt, okay? That's what your sand is like. So when you water your plants, the water just goes right through it. It doesn't have holding capacity, the capability. So when you add compost to sandy soil, my parents have sandy soil. They live in Stephenville, you know, just southwest of us. And they're always adding compost because their plants don't dry out as much. Because before they just had sandy soil. When my mom adds all that healthy compost, it's like, okay, we can retain some moisture now around these roots. So happier plants. So it helps, compost will help clay and sandy soil. All right, so I'm gonna go through this, make you feel a little guilty about the overburdened landfills, okay? It's just, and look at all those plastic bags that are not just holding plastic and things that we should be recycling, but food. You guys are gonna be surprised with these statistics. There's another picture. Okay, this is from EPA.gov. I did not make this up. You can go to EPA.gov and look at this information. Total municipal solid waste generated by material. This was in 2018. Take a look at these different numbers. Food, almost 22%. That makes me feel horrible. You know, there are people starving out there and we're just throwing away so much food. And you know, I'm bad about this too. You know, I mean, look at the 2 potatoes that I threw away because I didn't get to them quick enough. You know, stuff like that makes me feel guilty, but I feel less guilty because I know I'm putting it back into my compost and back into the earth. So, you know, it alleviates a little bit of that burden. Wood, 6.2%. Yard trimmings, you know, shrubs, grass clippings, that's gonna be 12%. Paper, cardboard, paperboard, 23%. That's a lot of Amazon boxes, right? And then of course glass, metal, plastics, you know, those can be put into the recycle bin, but not everybody recycles. Even my neighbors in Fort Worth, we have a separate recycle bin. I'm sure you guys do too. But they canceled their recycle bin and just got another trash can because they have so much trash. And they got an ugly letter from the city saying, you put non-recyclable stuff in your trash can, so if you do it again, you know, we're gonna fine you. They said, forget it then, just give us 2 trash cans. And so it pains me when I go out there and I see them pulling out their 2 trash cans because I know there's boxes in their plastic, soda cans. So I say shame, shame. They know that, I'm an environmental type person, but they still do it. So I'm always like kind of judging them a little bit, but we get along, but I still try to talk to them about that. So as you can see, these numbers are pretty crazy. About 63% of what we send to landfills can be composted. The wood, the food. So look at those numbers. The wood, yard trimmings, food, paper, cardboard. That's a lot, okay? 63%, we can alleviate that landfill burden. DFW gained 1.3 million residents past 10 years. We're going to gain another almost 1.4 million the next 10 years. So more trash, more water consumption. See why we need to do better? It's just trending up, 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 up. So we need to do our part. Okay. Now that I've given you, all the why we should do it, I'm going to tell you how to do it. Necessary components of a compost pile. Carbon. All right, who has the packages? Okay, the carbon. That is going to be typically what I call like dead stuff. It's lifeless. Thank you so much. Your carbon. It's typically, when I say typically, that's not always, always. It's just typically it's dead, brown, paper, dried up leaves, because the leaves are no longer alive. These are all your carbon materials. There are more, and I'll give you some more examples, and I also have a handout here in case you forget what I told you today. So you'll always have this cheat sheet on problems you might come across, how to remedy them, what's a brown, what's a green, it's all right here. So a lot of people, this is carbon, people will call this brown. So you may have heard people say green, brown when it comes to composting. Carbon is your brown, okay? So you can call it either way you want. Nitrogen is typically moist and green, okay? But not always green in color. Like a banana peel is considered a green. A red apple skin, that's considered a green. So it's not necessarily like green in color. So these are all nitrogen items, okay? Kitchen scraps typically, all nitrogen. So don't throw any of those away.
Does it need to be raw or?
Oh, no,
Is
steamed
food
veggies.
also considered nitrogen?
Yes, steamed veggies, yeah, anything like that, you can still put it out there. Coffee grounds, all of that, nitrogen. Okay, you also need air. Everybody knows what that is, I hope. Do I need to explain that one? Okay. And water. Okay, just those 4 components to make your own compost. So we'll get a little scientific here. The carbon is essential for microbe growth and microbial action. Okay, it's kind of like the foundation to make all this happen. The nitrogen gets the compost cooking. It gets things decomposing. So one without the other really doesn't work. You have to have both of those components to create this beautiful compost. I mean, you could eventually get there if you just had one or the other with some water, but it'll take a long time and you're gonna run into some problems. It's either not gonna break down if you only have this. If you only use kitchen scraps, stinky mess. Super stinky, gnats. Are you guilty of that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I was too. Even though I'm a master gardener, naturalist, all that, when I could plant anything. I have a green thumb. It's just kind of like some people are plant whisperers, some people are animal whisperers. I just kind of have that. I don't know why, but I failed miserably when I first started composting. I opened it up because I was just putting kitchen scraps in there. And one day I went and opened it up. I thought, composting, just dump stuff out there, right? There were little maggots in there. It stunk so bad. My husband's like, please get rid of that thing. It's just drawing flies and junk to the house. Yes?
What kind of ratio does it need to be between the two?
Coming up, 3 to 1.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, good question. Yes, that's what you need to be thinking like that, yes.
The coffee grounds, can they be flavored coffee? Or
that's totally fine, yes, yeah. Totally fine. So, here you go, the 3 to 1. For successful compost, you need 3 to 1. 3 carbon to 1 part nitrogen, okay? So for every 3 parts of your carbon, you need 1 of these. Okay, this is kind of confusing because this one's way more full, just because this is today what I had. But you need a lot more of the dry stuff, the brown, than you need nitrogen, the green.
Does it make a difference if it's leaves or paper?
No.
Doesn't.
Now, I will say this, kind of. A lot of attorneys always say, well, when you ask them a question, well, it depends. They never say yes or no, well, it depends. This book is how we were taught when I became a compost specialist. John also took the class. You don't have to buy this. I'm telling you the gist of how to compost, and you will get there without this book. But if you really want to know the nerdy specifics, the scientific specifics, there are some math calculations in here. Yes, I know, it turns me off too. Yes, it turns me off, but like for instance, it'll tell you that alfalfa hay has a nitrogen number of 2.45, and there's a calculation you can do. Like sawdust has a higher carbon number than like peanut shells, for instance. So if you want to get really scientific and nerdy, and you have a lot of time on your hands, you can do the calculation, yes. What I don't recommend is, if you have a bunch of shredded paper, you know, don't just put a big old gob of it out there. Spread it out, make sure it's moist, and then mix in some nitrogen, you know, some scraps. Because you don't want those to kind of get hard and dry up and become like paper mache. So, little things like that. But yeah, you don't have to know all the numbers, but some people get real scientific. I never do. John doesn't either. It's second nature now to us, where we can go out to our pile and go, oh, you need this. I need to add a little bit more of this. You will know, trust me, it's yes.
So, here's a nerdy math question then. Is it 3 to 1, is that volume or weight?
You don't have to be that scientific,
Okay.
but I love the way you're thinking. Yeah. I would just say, you know, that is a good question. Just eyeball it. Just eyeball it.
Okay.
Yeah. Just if you've got 3 parts of this, 1 part of that. It doesn't have to be. And some days you're not going to have a perfect ratio. Okay. In the winter, you're going to have a lot of brown leaves. Okay. If you have a family reunion and you're chopping things up for 30 people, you might have a lot of kitchen scraps that week, but not enough nitrogen. No big deal. It's gonna be a little off sometimes. Mine's never perfect.
So what happens when it's rain?
When it rains,
Yeah,
oh, it's excellent. It waters your compost. Compost needs water to break down.
but don't they be oversaturated? Maybe not.
That can happen. I've never had that problem. It just kind of goes back into the earth. Yeah, it just funnels through your compost and goes back into your lawn or wherever it is. So 3 parts carbon to 1 part nitrogen. Just remember that's the golden ratio, but you don't have to be perfect. Some days you're gonna have 2 to 1. But don't do that every day. That's when you run into problems, when you have 1 to 1. That's just, it's not enough. You need to try to aim for 3 to 1, yes.
On your carbon bar is the paper. I noticed you had a toilet paper roll. Is it best to tear it in little pieces so it
It
deteriorates
is,
faster?
yes. Everything, if you don't have to, some days, if I don't have a lot of time, I will just chunk this out there. But yes, everything breaks down faster if you mince it up. Even your veggies, your fruit, if you chop it up, it's gonna make compost faster. And I go into all that detail later too. Yes?
I know that, like your paper towels and things, they're bleached.
What's bleached?
Your white papers are
Yes.
bleached.
Mm-hmm.
And so like our coffee filters, we try to use the brown ones, napkins, brown ones. Does it matter as far as what happens with the bleach that's in that paper compared to what it's doing to the compost?
No, I've never had any issues, and I even add this to my vegetable garden.
Okay.
I do talk about some things that you should watch out for that might have some chemicals in them, and I will specifically outline those in a minute. But yeah, that's a good question, but no, I've never had any issues with just the paper,
Okay.
yeah. And I don't like to put any chemicals in my veggie garden. Fertilizers, I like to use like fish fertilizer, seaweed fertilizer, stuff like that, cause I'm gonna eat that stuff, even my herb garden. Now, if you're going to make compost for your trees or your shrubs, you know, you won't worry as much. But I will tell you about some things that you should watch out for.
Okay.
Okay, so some examples of nitrogen, green. Animal manure, you know, don't get upset with me, don't gross out and walk away. Some people think, ooh, do I have to use manure? No, I don't. You can, my mom does. She lives in Stephenville, so she has friends that have, you know, sheep, goats, cows, and she'll say, can I come clean out your pen? And she will load up my dad's truck and take it to her house and make beautiful, nutritious compost. She's brought me some in bags, and I said, you know, no thank you, but no thank you, because I just don't want to deal with it. At the demonstration garden, Tarrant County Master Gardener's demonstration garden, John and I are co-leads at that compost, and a friend of ours likes to bring her horse poop, and we've dealt with it a few times, but you don't have to. Yes, it is very nutritious for your compost, but not everybody has access to that either, so.
What about domestic animals?
No, never. I will talk about that too. I can read all your minds. I have it all in here. Gluten meal, used tea leaves. I put all my tea bags in there with the string and the paper still attached. Now I will say, watch out for those plastic mesh tea bags. Costco has those, the green tea, so I'm not gonna purchase those anymore. I mean, nothing against them, but I just like to chunk the whole thing in. I don't wanna sit there and cut each bag, empty it. Who has time for that? And also avoid tea bags that have the little paper clip. I'm not the staple, thank you. Yeah, so, cause you know, you've gotta sit there and, you know. So that's how I choose my tea bags. Coffee grounds. Excellent, excellent nitrogen source. Fresh shrub cuttings. Yes.
Including the filter
Yes, the paper filter, yes, you can use that too. Just chunk the whole thing.
as nitrogen.
Yes, put the whole thing in there. Of course, the filter is actually more of a carbon, but we're not being that picky, right? It's just all gonna disintegrate. What I do is I have a little coffee trash can that I put next to my coffee maker, and it's got a little lid on it. I just chunk my tea bags and coffee, because I'm not gonna go out to my compost every single morning. I save things, and then I also have something that I keep in my fridge. It's a plastic pickle jar. Use whatever you want. I don't use glass because I've dropped it before. So it's just a big plastic reusable container, and I put all my onion peels, apple cores, you know, eggshells, all of that. I just stick it in there, put it in the fridge so it doesn't go rancid and disgusting, you know, in a day. And about twice a week, I'll walk it outside and dump it in my compost. Like I said, I'm a lazy composter, so I'm not out there all the time. Fresh perennial trimmings. I better get through this, because if we don't, you guys will be here till like 10 o'clock. I know you guys need to get home. So maybe we should hold questions to the end. I don't know, what do you think? Yeah, okay. I love the questions, but I may even answer your question on the next slide. So banana peels, apple cores, watermelon rinds, expired and rotten produce. We all have that, right? We shop at Costco, sometimes just too much, we can't get through it. Put it in your compost, guys. Some examples of carbon again, the brown, paper towel rolls. People are always surprised that you can put those in your compost. Toilet paper rolls, cardboard boxes, shredded or torn paper, dried leaves, grass, sawdust. Now this is the one I tell people to be careful about. Watch for chemical additives, because a lot of the lumber you buy at Home Depot, Lowe's, the big box stores, anywhere really, are treated, pressure treated with a lot of chemicals. So if that compost pile is going to your trees and shrubs, you don't have to worry so much about it. But if it's going into your vegetable garden, I say don't use it. If in doubt, just don't use it, okay? Hay, peanut shells. So all of these are brown sources. Not all, this isn't a complete list. I'm just trying to get you to start thinking what's around your house that you can start composting. Okay, here are the steps to create a compost pile. Set up a compost bin. I'm gonna show you some of the compost bins that I work with personally. And there's really one of everything, so I'll show you what those look like. I have some that I bought on Amazon, some that we DIY'd and created on our own. You could just create a pile on the ground. You can do it, you don't have to go buy anything. And one of my students built one out of a pallet, those wooden pallets, super cute. And she said, yeah, you can use my pictures. So I'll show you all of those pictures too. So the key is, let's say you have a bunch of stuff, you're ready to create a compost pile. I hardly ever have that situation unless I'm out at the TCMGA demo garden. You know, people will donate stuff, you'll have a bunch of leaves, clippings from different gardens in that garden. But at home, it's gonna be like this. I'm just, as I have it, twice a week, I'll just go dump it. Sometimes on trash day, if a next door neighbor, you know those paper bags where you put trimmings, do you guys do that here in Grapevine? You put your trimmings in a paper bag for the trash? I'll ask my neighbors, hey, is that like, what kind of trimmings do you have in there? Because the reason I ask is sometimes you should not do this, but sometimes, I know neighbors will put dog poo in there and stuff. You don't want to use something like that. It's just gross, you shouldn't do it, but I know they break the rules sometimes. So I'll say, is that clean? Is that just trimmings? Yeah, go ahead and take it. And I will just take those bags and put them behind a big shrub that I have, a big evergreen, and just store it for when I need it. You can store stuff. You don't. So water in between those layers. Let's say you do have your neighbor's leaves, or you've raked up a lot of leaves. Put down your first layer, water it really well, then do your next layer, water it in, because a compost pile needs water to break down, okay? Something dry, it's just gonna stay like beef jerky and just kind of sit there. It's not gonna degrade. You need moisture to get it started. So typically, again, you can be loose with this, but by the book, it says start your bottom layer with a brown. So you can use some shredded paper or some boxes that you've ripped up. Then add your layer of green on top of that. Remember, water it in. Repeat your layers, okay? This is optional. I like to do this because I feel like it seeds your compost bin and gets it started faster. I've seen it, I feel like it just works. You don't have to, but a lot of people will ask me, should I go out and buy that compost starter that I saw on Amazon or at Home Depot? No. Just go get some coffee grounds and put it on top. That'll get it cooking. You don't have to use a starter. Just do your layers like I taught you, and then eventually you'll have your compost. But I do like to use, when I start a new compost bin, I'll sometimes go to my second one and get some of that and just kind of sprinkle it on top, because the microbes will, kind of establish and you know what I'm talking about, right? It'll get started faster if you do that, but you don't have to. Another optional thing you can do is cover the compost pile, and I do that because when it rains, I want to conserve that moisture in there, so I'll put the lid on it. If I know it's not gonna rain all week, why let the moisture dissipate? Keep it contained. Of course, my compost piles also have aeration holes, so it's not like a bucket with a lid on it. There's constant airflow going on. I will show you all those pictures, I promise you. I'm a visual person, so I like to show pictures as I go along. So composting tips, somebody asked about this earlier. If you want faster compost, be sure to chop up your materials. You don't have to. Like I said, I'm a lazy composter, so some days I do, some days I don't. If you put out half a watermelon, like you've dug up all the watermelon meat out of it and you just have a big old thing, it's gonna take longer to break down if you just put that whole thing out there, right? But if you get your knife and kind of chop it up, what I like to do if I'm super lazy, I'll just take the whole half watermelon shell, take it outside and just get my shovel and just kind of, after I put, I'm telling you, I'm real lazy. I'm just like, okay, good enough. And then I walk away from it. But my mom, she's meticulous. Sometimes she'll put stuff in the blender, like eggshells, stuff like that. She'll with water, and then she'll walk out there and pour it out. Because she likes to make compost fast. Not me. I can wait. It's fine. If you want to speed up your decomposition, you need to turn your compost. I don't do that. It's too much work. But I have friends who do it. John likes to do it. My other master gardener friend Juliet likes to do it. They like to go out there with their pitchfork, shovel, turn it, you know, because you're mixing everything up again and getting it cooking. You know, when a pile has been sitting there and you've got your layers, they're not necessarily touching each other, and some pieces dry out. So when you turn, you water it again, turn, you're mixing things up and kind of expediting and getting it cooking again. So that's up to you. If you want to show off to your friends, you know, a month from now, hey, look at all this compost I made. You'll need to do that if you want compost in 1 month. But if you're just going to use it for your house like me, you know, I just take my time. I let nature take care of it for me. I don't want to go out there and shovel if I don't have to. But yes, if you want to show off and say, look at how fast I made my compost, and you need compost immediately, you need to go out and have a regimen. Weekly, some people do it every day, but weekly is enough. Maybe once a month, go out there and turn it. Compost piles should always be damp, okay? Like a moistened sponge, not dripping all the time, because you don't want it to become anaerobic, okay? You want it to be like a sponge that you've wrung out. So it should always be constantly moist. If it dries out, don't beat yourself up, not a big deal. I have vacation, and you know, if we haven't had rain in 2 weeks, it might dry out while I'm gone. Well, when I get home, just put some water on it, we're good to go again. It will forgive you. Temperature of compost. Your compost should reach 90 to 140 degrees within a week. Okay, if you do the 3-to-1 ratio that I taught you, 3-to-1, it should reach that. You can get one of these thermometers. It's got a long stick on it that you can stick in the middle of your compost. I have one. It was fun when I first started. I never use it, you know, but it was fun at the beginning. You might want to get one too. You can get it online, and it'll kind of tell you if you're there or not. And you can check your temperature. They're not expensive. I think 10, 15 bucks. Hot weather will speed things up. Cold weather will slow it down. Just like if you put a apple in a refrigerator, it won't go bad as quickly as if you leave it on the counter. Same concept. Okay, this one's important. A lot of people say, should I put my dandelion seeds in there or weed seeds? It depends. Microbes that decompose raw materials are in 2 temperature categories. Mesophilic is going to be 50 to 113. That's the temperature range. When your compost has been sitting there and decomposing over time, it could reach up to 158. So thermophilic is 113 to 158. That's how you're going to kill your weed seeds. And to get to that thermophilic, you have to turn it. You have to be one of those people. Remember I told you I'm a lazy composter? I'm not going to do that. It's just going to sit there for a little while and decompose over time. So I don't put weed seeds in my compost. But if you want to go out there and have a schedule of turning, watering, keeping your compost churning and cooking and hot where you see steam coming out of it, then you cannot be a lazy composter. So do not put weed seeds in there, because after it may look like it's done, it'll get here still, okay? But it didn't get hot enough to kill those weed seeds. So when you sprinkle this out in your yard, you're also planting dandelions and whatever seeds you had. So if you're a lazy composter, do not add weeds to your compost. Does anybody have any questions about that? The different temperature range? So you'll have to get a thermometer to kind of understand this. John and I can pretty much just kind of like touch our compost or look at it, see if there's steam to know. But if you're a newbie to it, go out and get that thermometer just to make sure if you want to play around with it. All right, so this is the lazy versus fast composting that I was telling you about. So basically it's also called cold composting or hot composting. I'm a cold, lazy composter, okay? Lazy composting, minimal work. Just periodically check it for moisture. If it hasn't rained in a couple of weeks, you may have to go out there and water your compost. Because remember I said if it's dry, it won't break down. Let nature and critters do the work for you. Anytime I go out in my veggie garden or anywhere and plant something, you know, because I've amended over the years, Worms love my yard now. When I first moved into my yard, it was hard clay, caliche, rocks, grub worms, no worms at all. I had no worms. And now, wherever I dig, there's a nice juicy worm. So what I'll do in a new compost pile, I'll typically, if I see one, I'll pick him up or her and put it in my compost. Yeah, I'll just say, hey, you know, reproduce right here. Work in my compost bin. So that's what I do. And I'm not joking. My husband's a fisherman. Well, he likes to fish. He's not a fisherman by, you know, career or whatever. But he and his friends joke that they're gonna steal my worms to go fishing. I'm like, no, don't. They're my workers. Leave them alone. But they will want to go in my compost. If I get my little claw and go like this, it's like a horror movie. Worms, I mean, it's a good thing, but it is, you know, like, ooh. But yeah, I don't know if you guys saw, but I tried to pick out the worms that I could, but there's a lot of worms in my compost. Good for your soil, because they aerate, fluff up, and when they poop, that's worm compost. That is the best, one of the best composts. All right, so the fast composting, I talked about this earlier, that's where it's more labor intensive. You're gonna have to go out there, shovel it, turn it regularly. That's up to you. You know, if you're retired and have a lot of time, you want a good workout, go for it. Me, no. I'm too busy. I just want nature to take care of it for me. Oops. So look at the time difference. Lazy composting is gonna take sometimes 6 months, maybe up to a year. For me, it's typically about 6 months, 5 to 6 months, and I've got good compost. For fast composting, where you're turning it and really working at it, chopping things up, you can make compost in 1 month, 1 to 3 months, if you do it that way. It's all up to you. Okay, location of your compost bin. Where should you put it? Shady area, if you have it. Not everybody is blessed with trees. I'm just now getting shade from my trees that are 12 years old, because we, you know, moved to Haslett. Well, it's Fort Worth, but I guess it was farmland back in the day. We had no trees at all, but now I've got these beautiful, I've got 7 oak trees on my property, front and back, and I just love getting underneath and saying thank you for the shade. It's just awesome. So mine is in a partially shady area. In the morning it gets a little bit of shade from one of my oaks. So, you know, just use your best judgment on that. And the reason I say put it in the shade, you can put it in full sun, but do you like to work in full sun? No. In the middle of summer when it's 100 degrees, you're not gonna wanna go out there and put stuff in your compost or deal with it, no. So put it in the shade so it's easier on you. Near a water source would be nice, okay, because they need water to get started, remember? You kinda have to water it to get it started. I'll admit, mine's not near the water and I have a ½ acre, so I have to walk way in the back, but that's fine. So what I do to remedy that is, remember I told you about that 1 gallon pickle jar? There's a lot of pore space in between, a lot of air space. So I have all my goodies in there. I'll just put it under the faucet and fill it up with water, because I'm going out there anyways. Fill it up with water, so I've got my veggies, fruits, coffee, kitchen scraps. I put the lid on it, walk it to the back, dump it, put the lid on, walk away. So I'm watering it and feeding my compost at the same time. So that's one way to remedy it. Whenever it rains, I always, or when I see in the forecast it's going to rain, I always open the lid, so rain will water it. I never drag my hose out there, no, not necessary. But if you do have it near a water source, it will make your life a little bit easier. Out of sight. I work really hard landscaping my yard. I feel like it's really pretty, and when people come over, they're like, wow, it's so pretty. I don't want them to say, what's that black thing over there? What's that? You know, I don't want that to draw attention. So put it in a spot in the corner or on the side of the house where people won't see it, unless you want to really show off that you're a composter. Problems and solutions. You don't have to write these down because I have them on this little cheat sheet that I'm going to give you guys, okay? So stinky compost, we talked about that earlier. You have way too much nitrogen. You should not have any odor, except for an earthy smell. Like dirt smells earthy, that's what your compost should smell like. Really no smell. If you've got a stink going on, too many kitchen scraps, not enough carbon mixed in. So keep that in mind, please. If it's not breaking down, it's probably too dry, or not enough nitrogen. You've got too much of this and nothing to really get it to decompose, okay? So if that happens and it's not breaking down, add some water, some kitchen scraps, some nitrogen. You might want to turn it, you know, just depending on how much time. Like I said, I never turn mine, but you might want to kind of go out there and do the full thing and see how it feels. You might like it. Left with too many chunky pieces. Sometimes this can happen. I like to trim my shrubs sometimes, and I'll just stick the whole, you know, little twiggy branches and with the leaves attached. Some composters are like, I would never do that because they don't want to deal with the twigs later on. So just, you know, take the leaves off the little twigs if you want, but that's just too much work for me. I just put the whole thing out. But yeah, if you have too many chunks and stuff, maybe you need to chop things up or give it more time, let it break down. At the demo compost, what we do is we'll have some chunky pieces because we're expediting and trying to like get the compost generated for all these different gardens. Like we've got a cactus garden, veggie garden, all kinds of gardens at the Tarrant County Master Gardening facility. So they demand a lot of compost, so we will screen the compost. I'll talk about that later. So any chunks left behind, we just throw them back into the next compost cycle. You know, that's up to you if you want to do that. Ants invading your pile. This happens to me sometimes because they find, you know, a free buffet. They want to come and, you know, eat on your scraps. I use diatomaceous earth if it happens. It doesn't hurt you. You just don't want to breathe it in. Don't breathe. It's not good for your lungs. It kills all exoskeleton bugs, cockroaches, ants, things like that. So what I'll do is if I have an issue, I'll just sprinkle it lightly around my compost bin and they're gone. Another thing you could do is turn your compost pile. If it's hot, the ants won't want to stay there. They will skedaddle. So you have options. Oh, the diatomaceous earth, if it's going to rain, don't put it out because it washes away. So if it rains, you'll have to go out there and apply it again. Okay? Outside edges are too dry. Well, you're gonna have to water it. Sometimes you'll have to get those outside pieces that are exposed to the air more and put them in the middle where it's more moist. Animals are getting inside. Raccoons, squirrels, that can happen, you know, because they're like, ooh, I smell apple core, I'm gonna go in there. Never ever, the beginning picture, I was gonna ask you guys what's wrong with this picture, but I forgot to ask. Never go out to your compost, like in this situation. I never just go out there and dump this on top. Do you know why? Why would I not just do that and then walk away? Yes, you're telling the whole neighborhood, all the critters, hey, come to Smoky Ranch, there's a free buffet at Loretta's house. What I do is I keep a little claw next to my compost and I'll just dig a hole. It takes me 3 seconds. Dump it in there, cover it up. That way the animals don't know it's there, no smell, nothing. So that's what I do. Now if you have a compost bin, like I'm gonna show you later, with a lid on it, you could get away with that. But gnats and flies will somehow find a way, and you don't want to do that. I have done that before, just, you know, no time, I dumped everything, put the lid on it. The next day I came out just to look, lifted it, and you know, not ants, but flies and gnats everywhere. So do dig a little hole or put a bunch of carbon right on top, and then you'll be okay. All right, remember worms and other critters are there to help you. So don't freak out when you see some black soldier fly larvae or some roly-polies or worms in there. They're helping you move that stuff around and turning things for you. So if you find a worm, throw it in your compost bin. That's what I do. They'll even find a way. Even if you don't add worms, they will come into your compost bin. So never add these materials. Somebody asked me about this earlier. Dog and cat manure, too many pathogens in their feces. So meat-eating animals, that includes you, do not put that in there. There are facilities that can handle that kind of stuff, but not your city compost bin, keep it out. Some people swear by urine and stuff like that, you know, and I just tell them, I don't do it, you know. So, but yeah, definitely don't put dog or cat manure into your compost bin, because if there's a disease or something in there, a pathogen, it can multiply, and then you could spread it around your whole yard unknowingly and cause an issue, so let's not do that. Oil, you don't wanna put a slab of butter out there or anything like that. It inhibits the breakdown process, so don't do that. Meat and dairy. You're gonna be asking all the rats in the neighborhood to come eat in your compost pile, so let's avoid that. And diseased plants. If you see something really bad, if it's aphid infestation, no big deal, just cut it, put it in your compost. But if it's a problem, you're not sure what's going on, the plant all of a sudden died, I wouldn't put it in your compost, because you might be multiplying that problem. Compost additives to speed things up, okay, it gets things hot and cooking. The coffee grounds I talked about, earthworms love it. Every time I dump my coffee grounds outside, if I get that little claw and check, they're always in that cluster of coffee, and they love banana peels. They're always like, they just devour it. It's crazy how much they love coffee. Don't be embarrassed. Go to Starbucks, you know, get a cup of coffee. Don't go when they're during rush hour when they're busy. Go when it's a little light and say, hey, can I get a bag of coffee? A lot of times somebody beat me to it. They'll say, oh, some lady just came and got the bag. It'll be another hour before we, you know, okay, I'll be back or whatnot. But yes, they will gladly give it to you. Yes.
If so many people have the K-cups now,
Mm-hmm.
and I peel off the aluminum on the top and do the coffee and the filter part, and then
Yes.
you can recycle the plastic.
Yes, you can recycle the plastic. I do that too. I'm trying to get away from using the Keurigs, but I'm the only coffee drinker, so it's very convenient. Absolutely. And then the Keurig plastic, you can recycle that. You can also plant seeds in it. It already has drainage holes in it from the Keurig piercing the hole. So I've done that for my students and given plants away, like little veggie, you know, peppers and tomatoes. You can do that, yes. Thank you for sharing that. Cottonseed meal, very high in nitrogen, but watch out for pesticides because cotton is made for clothing, not to eat, right? So those farmers are allowed to use higher percentages of, and more toxins for cotton crops. So if you're gonna put that compost in your veggie garden, I say don't use cottonseed meal. So just a little warning there. Manure, we talked about this already, very valuable for nutrients and for nitrogen. If you have it, be thankful for it, use it. If not, don't worry. Okay, to screen or not. For seed starting, it is preferable to go ahead and screen it because you want a light, fluffy material so that your little seed can pop out of the ground. So it's not fighting with a big piece of stick or whatever might be on top. You want a finer product. So you can sift if you want. I never screen mine because I top dress. Top dress means you're just out there scattering compost around your trees and plants. So that's up to you. I don't mind some chunks in mine. It just blends right into the mulch. No big deal. Okay, utilizing compost. Before planting, go ahead and put out 2 to 3 inches of compost on top of your soil, your prepared bed, and till it in. Then you can plant your flowers and things like that. We don't recommend that for trees. When you plant a tree or shrub, you really shouldn't use any amendments because our clay soil here, when we dig a hole and plant the tree, you know, a long time ago people said, oh, put some compost or some tree soil, mix it in. We don't do that anymore. They did research at Texas A&M and found that the trees don't want to, the roots don't want to go out because they're saying, ooh, look at all this good soil in this little hole they dug for me. And all the roots grow like this in a circle in that little bowl you created. So a lot of trees will die early because of that. Then it becomes girdled and strangled after so many years. So don't add amendments when you're planting a tree or shrub. When I say utilizing your compost and before planting, that's like for your flowers and perennials, things like that. For established lawns, you can spread 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch on top of your lawn. It will green up beautifully. New lawns, you can till in 1 to 2.5 inches before you install your lawn. Okay. Potted plants, trees, and shrubs. This is the way I use it usually. I just top dress. Even my indoor planted pots, I'll just sprinkle it on top. Because when you water it or when it rains, all that nutrition goes down into the soil. You don't have to rough up the roots. Don't do that. Okay, here are my compost bins, and I'll go really quick because I know you guys need to get home. This one is a tumbler. I like it because I hurt my back a long time ago. I'm okay now, but maybe that's why I don't really like to dig. Easier on the back, no shoveling required. It makes compost quickly because you're out there. Anytime I dump in it, you know, I can just like, what's that? Is it The Price is Right where they do the wheel? It's kind of like that. You just kind of turn it. It's easy to turn. And because you're constantly turning your compost once a week or whatever without having to really shovel or anything, you're just turning it, because it mixes constantly, it gets hot and it creates compost very fast. Easy to unload it too. I'll show you pictures next. Clean and compact. Retains moisture well because it's closed. You can open it to put your stuff in it, but see how it's got those little clips? You can close it. It keeps dogs and critters out. I have a very nosy Boston Terrier, loves melon. Cucumber, watermelon. She will pick stuff out of my garden, melons, right when they're ripe and sweet. She knows the day. She'll just put, take a couple of bites out of it where I don't want to touch it anymore. And yeah, she has done that. And then she'll play with it like a ball. But she loves any kind of melon. And she will smell that stuff in my compost if I don't put it in too deep. So I like these enclosed units for that reason. So if you've got nosy dogs, you might want to get one of these. Makes smaller batches, that's the downfall, because you can't fill this thing all the way because you need that airspace so it can tumble. If it's too tight, things won't mix. You have to leave some airspace so things will just, like a washer, mix all together. You can't fill it all the way, like I just said. Worms cannot get into it. And please, if you buy one of these, don't put worms in it because it can get hot and they can't escape because they're enclosed. That would be cruel. So please do not add worms to this unit. Lid falls off easily at times. I know a lot of friends, my parents have one of these too. And the clips, tend to break. I still use it, no big deal. Just got some stuff at Home Depot to fix it. But the lid tends to fall off sometimes. That's one of the downfalls, no matter what brand you buy. Open it for rainwater. So this is how I empty it, and this is what I love about it. You never have to shovel out of this unit. I have this little plastic wheelbarrow that's great, especially if you're a lady, small like me. It's not heavy. Just put it right under that lip, and there's your finished compost, and then drag it wherever you need it, shovel it out. Easy. The third picture, I've just refilled it a little too much, but I wanted to show you guys, what I put in there. So don't fill it up that much. 3/4 is all you want to do on this unit. Compost bin, this is the enclosed unit. I call it a gravity fed unit. You can be a lazy composter with this one too. This is my main one. See on top, I've got some boxwood trimmings. I just put it all on top. On the bottom is the finished compost. So it takes a while because I'm not turning it. So in the middle somewhere it's breaking down, and then finally that's the old stuff at the bottom, and it's ready to go. So I keep that little pink hand shovel, and I just then I close it when I'm done, and I just keep adding to the top. So, it breaks down, gravity fed, and you get your compost on the bottom. Sometimes with this unit, it can get stuck. Like when you use too many twigs and stuff, it can get stuck in the very back. I have a door on the side and on 2 sides. So you can get in there with a pitchfork and kind of loosen it up if you need to. I've had to do that before when it gets too compacted back there, but it's easy peasy. I just keep adding to the top. What I failed to mention in the tumbler one, usually on that one, you kind of have to start it and quit adding to it. Because if you've got compost that's almost ready to use like this, and this is what finished compost looks like. It looks like this good soil that you buy out of the bag. Very rich, dense, no big chunky pieces. This is ready to go. You don't want to keep adding this stuff to this, because then you have to start over and wait for this to break down, right? So with that tumbler, I still cheat sometimes and I'll put stuff in it and wait a little longer. But with the tumbler, kind of set it, let it break down, then you're done. With this, you can continue adding on top. That's what I love about it. Okay, so the pros and cons of the enclosed compost bin. It holds more material than the tumbler style. Worms and free laborers, remember those critters? They can come and go as they want because it's open at the bottom. That's just the earth on the bottom. It's completely open. If it gets too hot, they can leave. If it gets too cold, they can burrow into the ground. I just love this system so much. Dump and forget it, but like I said, it will take a little bit more time because you're not turning it. You can take this whole unit off and put it to the side and then shovel that in if you want to turn it. I've done that before too because I wanted to show some of my neighbors how to do that, so I did demo that. It's up to you. It keeps dogs and cats out again because it's enclosed. It retains moisture very well. It's easy to access the ready compost at the bottom. And you know, if a big chunk falls through, no big deal. Just put it back right on top. Feed it back. Sometimes, you know, in the corner or something, I'll have an apple core or something fall through. No big deal. I saw it, so I'll just pick it up and put it right back on top. Continuously add to the top over time. Very flexible. It's clean and contained. It can be difficult to turn if you want that kind of a compost where you're constantly turning it, because you'll need a friend to kind of like loosen it up and get it off. So I'm giving you a little tip there, okay? So that's why I say this is kind of a set it and forget it type of unit. Just let gravity and time. It's not gonna make compost quickly because you're not turning it. Open it when it rains. Okay, this is out at the TCMGA demonstration garden where John and I work. We have 3 different types of bins there. A cinder block one where we just basically create a little barricade to keep the compost in. On the left-hand side there, that is just a DIY chicken fencing with some metal rods, and then we created a little door to put up to keep things from falling out. That's a chain link fence behind it, but it is chicken wire on all 3 sides with just a little door in front. This is a shepherd's bin on the right-hand side, and it folds into a little sheet, and then you can just kind of accordion, open it up when you're ready for it. This one's a great unit if you do like turning, because you and a friend can just easily lift it up, put it next to it. You don't want to move your compost bin from here or turn it from here to that sink, because that means you have to shovel, walk all the way over here and dump. You don't want to do that. Whenever you have a compost bin and you're going to turn it, do it right next to it. So you're just shoveling right next door. Shovel next door, okay? Okay, open compost bins and piles, the advantages, disadvantages, larger capacity. It's way bigger than the 2 I have at home. You can even just dump one on the pile, on the ground. You don't have to make anything. But if you have dogs and stuff, you may not want to do that. They'll probably go through it. It dries out quickly because it's open. And in the middle of our Texas summers, it can dry out like that. So some people will put, black trash bag on top or some kind of lid to try to retain the moisture. We've done that a few times, but it was just a mess, wind blows. So we really didn't deal with that much. It's open to the critters. It is easy for turning. DIY friendly. This is another master gardener. She uses a lot of shepherd's bins and she just puts them right next to each other. See that? And she will, you don't see the open ones, but she'll just, like this one, she'll turn it into this open one, and then that one becomes open, right? So then she'll turn this one, put it into this one. It's like a factory of composting. She loves to compost. That's a lot of work. She has some land out somewhere. Okay, this is my student at TCC, Pam. She and her husband got a couple of wooden pallets, deconstructed them, You can use them whole, I'll show you one of those too, but she deconstructed it to kind of make a tighter, nicer unit. You can kind of see those L brackets that she used to put it together, and then she went and got had some metal bars that she just screwed into the sides just to keep it together. I thought this one looked really good, and note she also used some cinder blocks on the bottom just to keep it out of water so it doesn't rot as quickly. And here are some more pictures to show how they made it. I just thought this one was super cute. Okay, now this is Cheryl again with her pallets that were not deconstructed. She just kind of created walls with it. So you can get fancy if you want, you can use them as is. All right, trench composting, I don't really recommend this one, but you might find a need for it. I know that some farmers and stuff, if they've got, you know, a dead animal, I know I said don't use meat, but you know, if you've got a farm animal and you've got to take care of it, they will use this technique where you just dig a hole, put it in there, and then put your soil right back on top. But it's a lot of work. So unless you have like a bobcat or something, but I just had to mention it. This one's great if you have a condo or just a small space, but you still want to compost. You can buy these geobins. They're flexible. You can move them around. You know, I wouldn't do this if you want to be a serious composter, but I know some people that live in senior living, but they still want to garden and have the compost bins. They will use this. Okay, additional materials to make your own DIY compost bin. You can use cinder blocks. We have one of those. I didn't take a picture of it, but you can basically just create, you know, a little barricaded area, 3-sided, so that you can keep your compost together. Old fencing, old trash can, but you do need to add holes to it. This one's a pretty good technique if you have a trash can like this, maybe it's got a crack in it or something, you know, no big deal. Drill some more holes into it, some good holes into it, fill it up about halfway, put the lid on it, put it on its side, and then you and a friend can kind of just roll it back and forth, you know? So you don't have to shovel, you don't have to turn it. So that's the way to turn it. So some people do that. Okay, composting, closing notes. Composting becomes easier and second nature with time, it really does. I know, right, you know, I told you guys use 3-to-1 ratio, so you're probably like, okay, wait a minute, I have to do 3. Is it volume, is it mass? You don't have to think about that. And John and I'm serious, we've been composting for so long now, and you know, I guarantee you, if you just do this for a month or two, you're gonna get it. You're just gonna be like, oh, it's too dry, or oh, I added too much carbon, I know I need to add some nitrogen. You're gonna know just by looking at it and feeling it, if it's not breaking down, or, you know, trust me, it becomes second nature. You know when you brush your teeth, you don't go, okay, let's go to the back, up, down, get your tongue, up, down, let's get this molar over here. No, you just know, right? You just know where to go. Same thing with composting. Okay, and here's my last slide. Yes, that is so true, so true. We know better, but I like testing and researching stuff on my own. I've actually gone outside and just dug a hole and put up, this particular test was a lantana. Everybody knows what lantana is. I dug a hole and put it in there and used the native soil. My clay, caliche, it was an area that wasn't amended previously. I went over here and I added some of my compost. Remember I said put a couple inches on top, till it up lightly, then plant? This plant was 3 times the size and 3 to 4 times more flowers and blooms than this one. So if you want better yield, more cucumbers, more tomatoes, more flowers, you need to amend your soil and make it healthier. You can't expect a good crop or good yield or beautiful flowers if you give your plants mediocre soil. It's all about soil and sunlight and water, but soil is your foundation. Okay, any questions?
If people lives in a
I like to throw my things away, but I have a few plants, like, how can I just start like composting?
Do you have a patio? Okay, that's fine too. You can go get like a little Home Depot bucket. Put your things together. Just make sure you aerate it, mix it up, because you're not gonna have the holes on the outside like you would typically have outside, because you don't want things leaking out. Just make sure you keep mixing it up. They actually have inside the house compost units that you might wanna get. It's got like some charcoal on top. Also, a lot of cities, I don't know about you guys, do you have compost pickup?
No.
Okay, City of Fort Worth tried it. I know that at the dump station you can actually bring your kitchen scraps, but you might wanna try that. I've not done indoor composting, but my mom somewhat does. She does vermicomposting with worms. So she has a big Tupperware bucket, those like Christmas bins, and she has worms in it with, soil, and she'll put her scraps in there for the worms to devour it. And it's a very rich and dense, very good compost. Yeah, so you can do worm composting. Yeah. Yes.
Can you use eggshells?
Yes.
Do you need to rinse them out, or is the?
No.
That's okay, that
Absolutely.
meat or whatever it is.
Yeah,
in there
the little
is fine.
gel that's left. Yeah,
Okay.
I just use my hands, quick crunch. I don't even make sure they're small. So a lot of times you'll see them remnants. It adds good calcium to your soil. So yes, add those. You don't have to rinse them out. You don't even have to take the membrane out. The little membrane, no. Yes.
Are the oils in like citrus fruits okay?
Good question. Some is okay, but worms don't like it. A lot of bugs don't like it. They'll actually make citrus bug repellent, bug spray. So, if I eat a grapefruit, I'll still put it in there. But if I eat a grapefruit every day, I'm not gonna put it in there every day. Yeah, just a little bit.
And are coffee grounds made with cold brew okay?
Absolutely, yes. Any coffee grounds that you've used, even expired, yeah, stick it in there.
Is the oil used in cooking, say you have leftovers that just, stayed in the refrigerator too long, and you roasted some vegetables with olive oil or whatever?
Yeah, if you've just made a dish, like sometimes I'll make too much of a stir fry or something where there's no meat in it, but I did use some olive oil or something, I add it in. You don't wanna pour a whole bottle in there because it inhibits the breakdown process, but a little bit's okay. I mean, it came from a vegetable after all, for the most part, like canola, olive oil, just a little bit, yeah. Any other questions? I hope you'll start composting. I know you guys have to get going. If you have any questions, I gave you my email address. Also, guys, this Master Gardener Helpline, 817-884-1944. If you go to tcmga.org, we also have an email that you guys can send pictures to. If you don't know why your tree is diseased, why is it dying, take good pictures, be as descriptive as possible. And another Master Gardener, or even me, will reply to you. If we don't know the answer, we have PhDs, pathologists at our fingertips that we can go ask. What is this? What's going on with this plant? We will tell you. It's free. It's to all Tarrant County residents. You guys are Tarrant County here, right?
And Loretta, you have some videos on YouTube, right? There's
Yes.
Master Gardener videos on YouTube, correct?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah, so-
TCMGA.
Yes, we were talking about, I have a new yard, like there's only landscaping when the builder built it. So we're talking about extending beds and doing things like that, and she said, use lasagna.
Lasagna gardening, yeah, sheet mulching, yeah.
So I'm gonna get on
Yeah.
YouTube and find the instructions for doing that. Loretta, do you wanna give everybody your
Oh,
email?
yes, thank you. Did everybody do the sign-in sheet too?
Yes, we
Okay.
got the sign-in. So about 3 of you came in later that did not sign in. If you don't mind, it's right back there by my handbag. Don't forget to look for I'll send you guys all an email in plenty of time for the August lecture. And we appreciate y'all taking time to come by tonight. If you're wanting to get involved with Keep Great Mind Beautiful, let me know, or come to our website. Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks for coming.